still standing here, waiting for my honey. Hope she will come for heaven.
Hey guys, Backwaters and Backroads here, obviously. So, I've been thinking for a while now about trying to make a video that has some value about living in a small town or choosing to move to a small town, in today's age, 2020, and some of the reasons why. And I can tell you, if you ever go and make a YouTube channel and you have the mindset of everything's been said before and everything's been done before, it'll really cripple you for wanting to make videos, because it's true. Everything's been said and everything's been done. So you kind of have to have the attitude of everything's been said and done, but not by you or not by me, right? So I'm going to make a little video here about why I moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And not only that, but probably one of the farthest, most isolated, kind of end of the road little towns that anyone could find, which would be Ontonagon. And see if I can, add some value. So I grew up in the Sierra Nevada foothills, a little town called Grass Valley, California. And it was a small town when I was, a kid. Relatively small town for California it was. Had a lot of freedom, had a lot of space. I remember coming home from school and jumping on my little mini bikes and with my friends and riding, just riding trails. Well, that actually was at my dad's house. My mom's house was different, but there was some freedom to be had, is my point. But by the time I got out of high school, things were changing pretty substantially. A lot of Southern Californians were moving up to Northern California. A lot of Californians were moving to Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. There was kind of this exodus happening, or kind of like a shuffle or replacement in the 90s. It happens every once in a while where housing prices get really high and people are in a position where they can sell and move to a different part of the country and just buy outright, or get a lot more house or what have you, and a better, arguably a better lifestyle. Well, my little town had a lot going for it. Still does. It's got a good climate. It's got kind of 4 seasons for California standards. Trees, rivers. It kind of reminds me of the line, I think it's an Eagles song. It says, "Call a place paradise and watch it go." Well, there's a lot of paradises, in America and in the world. And when they get discovered, it's just inevitable. They're going to get overrun. So, where does that leave the person that hasn't got a steady foothold in the paradise they find themselves in? Or if you just don't live in a paradise at all, or your version of paradise, let's put it that way. Well, you gotta go looking, which is what I did. So I've kind of always had a restless spirit. I was, gazing off in the distance ever since I was a kid. Excuse me. And I started, I moved into Volkswagen vans and later on Toyota vans and lived off my motorcycle. I hitchhiked. And I ended up in the upper Midwest sometime in the mid-90s. Duluth. I remember thinking, wow, this is a cool place. It's got this big lake. It's fresh water. It's got a lot of friendly people, a lot of Scandinavians, a lot of pretty girls. I was young and could do something with that. And so I just ended up getting a job, whenever I could. I worked at restaurants, and I'd spend a whole summer, sometimes just working day labor. And then in my time off, which there was plenty of time, not plenty of money, I'd do a lot of hiking. Back in those days, before cell phones and everything, people were interacting with each other a lot more. Women had to come out, to meet the guys in person instead of just sitting on their screens, and guys had to go out chasing the women in the bars and the pubs and stuff like that. I mean, I call those the good old days. Certainly my good old days. I've called the 1990s Generation X's 1960s, or what the 1960s were for the boomers. So they were, it was a good decade. But anyways, trying not to ramble here, but I don't know. I had a little house in Duluth, Minnesota, which was a great house. Even had a view. If you stood just right, you could actually see Lake Superior in the winter when all the leaves are off the trees. That house burned down. That was probably one of the biggest tragedies of my life. That was a really hard time. Yeah, I lost that house. I didn't have insurance on it either. So, needless to say, paying the price for the lifestyle you live. So, I ended up continuing to look around, and I went east from Minnesota, and I went into the UP. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan is a very strange place, or it's a kind of an anomaly in America, and especially in the lower 48 states. It's, feel free to look this up. Maybe I can put some links below. But the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is, well, I mean, people wonder why it's even Michigan. Why is it not its own state? Or bare minimum, why is it not just northern Wisconsin? There's a big, long story behind that. But it has a very small population. I think the last time I checked, it was about 200,000 people. And most of those are in just a couple little small cities, Marquette, Escanaba. It's big. It's surrounded by Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. It's kind of like Alaska. In the summer, you'll see a lot of people with Alaskan plates around Michigan, or the UP, I should say, because I think it's kind of like kind of two of the same places in a way. So, and I thought about Alaska. I mean, of course, there's like big, there's a big adventure behind going to Alaska and living in Alaska. And I've been to Alaska a couple times, but I don't want to live there. I know this for sure now because it's just too isolated. You have Canada in the way, for starters, and Canada is, well, I mean, people have said, crossing the borders in Canada is like harder than getting into Afghanistan, and that's not really a joke. I've never really done anything to be barred from Canada, but I have been turned away from Canada, which is yet another story I could share sometime. But that and everything's expensive up there. But I like what Alaska offers, which is nature, low population, fishing, hunting, outdoor activities, things like that. And that's what the Upper Peninsula of Michigan has, but you don't have to go to Alaska for it. Now, one of the many drawbacks to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is the economy is terrible. When I watch videos about economic collapse and Armageddon and things like that, which I probably watch too many of those, it's already kind of hit the UP. I mean, the economy could just completely tank, and I don't think the Upper Peninsula would get the memo until like 2 years later, because we've kind of already had that. The economy's terrible. It's the worst in the nation. Other than just a few, odds and ends kind of essential jobs, you're not going to get it. You're not going to make a lot of money up here. So one of the benefits of that is everyone's kind of the same in a way. Like my little town of about 1,000 people, it's actually a village. No one's really rich or poor. I mean, the break that happens in my little town is you have the retired boomers that worked at the paper mill, and they got their golden parachutes, and they're living a really good life. I mean, they don't have, their houses are long since paid for, and they, get a pension or maybe two, and, they're doing well. They get a new truck once in a while, and that's all tolerable. I mean, that's our local rich. And then there's the lesser, followers, younger people that didn't get in on that, like myself and some other folks. I mean, the median age in my town is like 55 years old. I mean, it's an old town because young people don't want to stick around, and I can't blame them. But there is this oddball contingent, at least in my town, and I would speculate it's in pretty much any little town in America, which is these people that decide, they choose to move to an isolated little place to just make it work, hell or high water. They don't want to live in cities. They don't want to put up with cities. I know of others in my little village that, came to their own conclusions like I did, a few years ago, and they bought little houses and this and that. Now, how I ended up in Ontonagon is one day I was just out exploring, and I just took the end of the road and said, what's this little town up here? I had no idea about it, what it was, and I looked around and I just said, this place is great. And I started looking at the property values, and they were, at the time, these was like 2005, 2006. I mean, they could hardly give a house away. There were houses for like $2,000, $3,000. I bought my first house in Ontonagon for $5,000. I should have pounced, earlier than that, but and the house that I live in now, I paid $30,000 for it. It's, it's nothing special, but it is right on the beach. It's right on Lake Superior, and it's, it gets the job done for me. And so I guess where I'm trying to go with this is, if I can just be another guy on the internet that's planting a seed to somebody that you do still have options. And if you are of the mindset, if you're of the personality that you just don't want to put up with cities, and you're not chasing the buck, and you're not thinking you're going to, be the one that hits it big, and lives big, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It's like, I guess it's that typical urban lifestyle. If that's not for you, but you kind of find yourself stuck in it because you feel like you have no other choice, and this is probably geared more towards single men, though not exclusively. I'm sure there are, there's not enough of them, but there are women out there that kind of think along the lines that I'm trying to explain. And there are even married couples who can probably figure out how to work it out between them enough to extract themselves from cities. I haven't had a lot of good luck finding a woman that will do that. That's a whole other video that I might try to take on someday, which is like, male-female relations in the modern age, and related with the subjects of simplicity and living in the woods and living in small towns and things like that. I won't try to do that here. This would become too long. But that said, probably who is being finding any value in this is going to be kind of like guys like me, just middle-aged guys or maybe younger guys that are like, man, I'm so sick of it. I want to just have a little place of my own. I want to have some freedom in meaning what I own is mine, and throw a little bit of taxes towards the government, and they'll stay off your back, hopefully. It can be done. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm looking around other parts of the country when I have time and money, like the Ozarks and like Iowa, and probably Maine, things like that. Though, what I'm kind of looking for is a second outpost, or bunker, is what I call them, in a not so cold place. So I have gotten some footholds in the Ozarks, but that's still kind of panning itself out, and when it does, I'm going to share that here with you guys. I'm also looking around Iowa ever since I become friends with Barry at Extreme Budget. His channel's great, link below. He bought a $5,000 house in a neat little town. I like Iowa. I don't know why. I could explain it. Maybe I'll make another video about it sometime. But, having, some people pay, most people pay, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, depending on where they live, for one house that they might or might not ever pay off. Or you could buy a couple of modest little houses in a couple of modest little towns for, say, $20,000 a piece, and you're way ahead, and you can kind of be a strange kind of snowbird. Because I believe all evidence points towards major social changes happening in America and in the world moving forward. A lot of this has to do with demographics. A lot of it has to do with generational shifts. I don't need to go into those because they become too political too quick, and there's other channels that do that, and I don't want to taint this one with that. But, you know, it's probably no big secret that I kind of lean to the right politically, and my value system and my worldview. And I think we can all just get along anyways. So, okay guys, my walk's almost done here. The beagle's just running back and forth. She's got me tied up around the leash. I'm about to trip any moment now. So thanks for listening to this. My channel, hopefully the folks have stuck around for a long time. We're going on to 2,000 subscribers here pretty soon. And when spring hits and we start the Super Shanty, I bet you that doubles. And then who knows, when the trip starts next fall, maybe we'll just keep going from there. I have about 1,500 more subscribers than I ever expected. So it's fantastic. Love it. But yeah, this is not really a talking head channel. I don't really come out in front of the camera too much, but I try to do a little more because I've learned that people do want to know who they're watching and who their host is. So here's your host, Backwaters Brenton, sometimes Backroads Brenton. And thanks for coming along, and thanks for putting up with me. Catch you later.